like, get out, get out, get out. And I puked all over his shoes.
Oh no.
And he looked at me and I was like, I am so sorry. And he was like, you're the third guy. It's
This episode, which is unlikely.
Wow, if your girlfriends don't listen to a podcast, then
Yeah,
who
I
the
was gonna
fuck
say
is
that.
listening to a
She
podcast?
hears me talk.
First official episode, like proper official episode since the announcement, and it's with Ignacio. Welcome to the podcast.
It's an honor to be invited. It's an honor to be here with you guys.
Nice.
Thanks for coming on. So, well, we'll talk about many things today, but I guess we should start with our traditional, by now traditional, as the fans of the show know, icebreaker. Arian, you want to...
Yeah, cool. Let's start. So, you've been rescued from an island.
Okay.
You were stuck there for 6 months. All you ate was coconut and maybe a fish or two that you found on a rare occasion.
Okay.
You've been rescued and you've been brought back to Barcelona. You've met your family. You've met your friends. All right. What's the first meal you're going to eat?
So, thankfully, I had some time to think about it. And I have actually decided that it's not only going to be one meal, it's going to be a whole process of 6 hours.
6 hours?
Yes. So my idea would be, regardless of location, I would bring several things from several places I really love. The first one is going to be an appetizer of croquetas, which are going to be two different types of croquetas. One is going to be a Spanish ham, and one is going to be called cocido, which is what you do when you have leftover chicken and you just like kind of melt it down and put it into a croqueta. It's an amazing dish that is really, really common in Spain. That I would add some Spanish ham, best quality I can get, plus some just bread and tomato, Catalan style, with a little bit of olive oil. And with that, I think I can spend an hour,
just eating that.
Hour and a half, just eating that with a few beers, no wine, no nothing, just a few cold beers and maybe 2-3 friends coming with me. Then after like some of what we love to do here in Spain, which is called the over table, the sobremesa, it's when you're finished eating, but you keep talking and having a drink.
What is it called?
Sobremesa.
Sobremesa.
Yeah, it's over the table.
Oh, so over the
literally.
table.
Yeah, because you leave the things sobre la mesa, over the table. You leave them here.
And then you just keep talking.
You just keep talking.
Okay.
Then I will connect it to create some space. I will connect it with 2 plates. The first one would be green peas with chorizo and some Spanish like sausage, which are really, really tasty and I love. And then I will have a humongous steak that I had in Segovia, which I was able to cut with a spoon. And it was a steak made with wine. I don't know how they did it, but it was one of the best steaks I ever had.
You mean like cooked with wine sauce, or...?
I don't remember. They told me a steak to the wine. That's it. And they actually only gave me a spoon and a fork.
Sometimes alcohol can break down some of the proteins in the meat, which makes it softer.
Yeah.
That's also the theory behind Wagyu beef, right? They massage the cows with gin and they give the cows beer, so they're more relaxed, so the muscles are more tender.
Man, the amount of like stories I've heard about how Wagyu is made, like that is one version. I've heard one about like there are these special cows that have a special masseuse who massage the cows.
And classical music, right?
And classical music, and then they like relax their muscles and then makes the meat softer.
In another life, I want to be a Japanese cow, man. That sounds pretty cool.
Completely agree.
All right. Okay, so there's the steak.
Yeah, and
I guess we're like 4 hours into your 6 hour process.
We started at an hour and a half. We're probably 4 hours in, and we are having some wine, and then we keep talking over the table with some gin tonics.
Your tolerance after 6 months on an uninhabited island might be pretty low.
So yeah, you'll be.
I know what about.
You would have had 6 months of like dry. You know how you have dry January. You would have dry half a year.
That's why I gave myself 6 hours.
Okay.
And a lot of water. But then the ending will probably be a cheesecake, but a special kind of
like
cheesecake
Basque?
that is made in Spain, in the Basque country.
Basque.
that is called La Viña, which is with a special type of cheese that does not allow to get like hard. It completely melts, and it's one of the best things I have ever tasted in my life. If you ever go to San Sebastian, you
I've been
actually
to San
need
Sebastian.
to, but you need to actually call the restaurant and ask them, "Can you get me one of the cheesecakes in advance?" And they hold it for you, because it's impossible to get one on the street. Like there, you go to the restaurant, you ask for one, they don't have. They are all like booked. It's wild.
Man, this was like a cultural journey through Spain he took
So we
us.
need to go back to San Sebastian.
We need to go back
Yes,
to San
because
Sebastian.
I can do the whole thing I just told you. In San Sebastian, I know the 4 restaurants where I can do that.
Would you say food is the biggest cultural gift from Spain to the world? Because you look at I was looking at the top 50 restaurants in the world just a couple of days back with Kyle. Shout out to Kyle. And I think the top 3 or 4 were all in Spain. And like after having lived here for 6 months now, like food is like it's by far to me spells out like the biggest cultural aspect of Spain. I don't know.
It's not about what I believe is that it's not about the quality of the food, but the quality of the people you are sharing it with, plus the quality of the food. If the food is great and you have good friends around you, you're gonna enjoy it double. And it's a huge culture thing here to go out to dinner, to enjoy yourself, not only eating, but also relaxing and talking with your friends, and maybe talking to the waiter and talking to whoever, and maybe even something that happens in Madrid, in one street that I love called Ponzano, is that it's full of terraces and it's full of young people. And one thing that happens every single time I have gone there is that I'm having whatever, like a vermouth or something, and I end up connecting to the table next to me, and we actually join the tables, and we just meet each other, and we just keep talking. Especially if they are like cute girls. That happens. That is better for me, but it has happened with guys and my friends from Madrid that are girls.
So with that one street?
It's a one huge street, like 800 meters long with 20 bars. It's amazing.
So Asia has this a lot. Asian culture is very communal, the way you eat. Like Korean barbecue, you go in a big group. You want to have Japanese barbecue again. Japanese, some of its cuisines are like you have it just by yourself. But like Korean barbecue, big group. Indonesian food, big group. Chinese hot pot, big group. In Spain, I don't know what's your experience in Europe, but do you think Spain has like this communal food culture that other countries don't have?
I wouldn't say other countries don't have, but definitely you notice in Spain, like, I mean, this is very reductive, but when you think of Spanish food as a non-Spaniard, you think of tapas, which are by definition made for sharing. Like, you would never go to a restaurant and be like, I want a starter of patatas bravas, right? It's nice to have a few with beers, with wine, with, you know, the conversation piece. And then paella is the other very famous Spanish dish, which again, like, you're not going to get paella for yourself, you're going to die. So I think there's definitely something there. But I think there's other countries in Europe that have this. I think Mediterranean culture in general like encourages this kind of conversational style meals that last a long time. Like my girlfriend's Greek, so I have to give the Greek cuisine a shout out just in case she listens to this episode, which is unlikely.
Wow, if your girlfriend's not listening to a podcast, then who the fuck is listening to a podcast?
She hears me talking about our relationship.
I'm gonna show this to my family, so
Probably this section is much more interesting to you than to most people. How did you fall in love with, like, what made you the runner that you are today? And I know this is not your first competitive event that you're taking part in.
So
talk us about your journey, like, you know.
So I fell in love with the sport because of something we like to call no hay huevos, which the direct translation is you don't have testicles. Which is kind of fun if you think about it. But for us, it's more of a cultural thing. When you say no hay huevos, what I'm saying is you're not brave enough to do something. When I was 17, I started running one day with my dad, then again, and I didn't have running shoes. I didn't care about it. I was like 16 years old. And I have like a big family. I have 45 cousins right now. It's another topic for another 3-hour podcast if you want. But one of my cousins actually was like a triathlon college champion in Catalonia. Like he's amazing sports guy. Like for me, he was kind of a hero because I never liked the sports. I was horrible at soccer. I was a goalkeeper because I was horrible at playing. I was horrible. I was not a soccer fan. So we were talking one day, and my dad told him like, "Hey, Ignacio started running with me a few days a week, like once or twice." And he looked at me, and he was like 21 years old. I was like, no, he was 25.
You were 17.
Yeah. I was like 16, 17, kind of like a cocky teenager. Yeah, I'm getting better. And he looked at me and he just said, no hay huevos, to do a 10-kilometer race. And I took it by heart. Like, that's the worst thing you can tell a Spaniard, that you are not brave enough to do something. He's going to go crazy in general. I have actually jumped off a harbor because of no hay huevos in the middle of the night.
Wow.
So I didn't know the height. It was like a 12 meters drop. It was horrible.
So that one is the trigger word for Spanish.
It's a trigger word.
I want anything to get done, I just use that word.
Yes, if you ever go to Multiculti, to the Spanish stand and you say, no hay huevos, all the Spanish guys are going to turn around and say, to do what? It's literally like this.
I'm using this now.
Yes.
For all the Spanish people, I'm using this word.
I hope no one sees the podcast.
And we wanted some Spanish guests for a future podcast, and they're like, nah,
that's the way.
That's the one we use. Like, oh, me.
So I did it. I actually joined a 10-kilometer race with my dad, and I actually managed to do like a 45-minute time or 46. I don't remember actually. And then I kind of fell in love with the thing. I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the sense of achievement. And being a cocky teenager, just about to turn 17, I just went to my cousin. Again, gorgeous, really strong, attractive guy from Canarias. And I just told him, I did it. What's next?
Wow.
Yeah, and he just grabbed me and said, a triathlon. And I decided to do, 3 months later, I decided to do a triathlon. It was on the summer I would turn 17, just before starting my last year of school. And I fell in love, completely in love with it. There was something about it. It was the combination of being afraid of swimming in open waters, because I don't want to say I have a phobia. Like, it's called thalassophobia or thalassophobia.
Yeah,
like
I think fear of the open water or something like that. Yeah,
if I don't see the bottom.
Correct, thalassophobia.
Is there a Greek word for a fear of jumping off harbors?
Thalassophobia. I don't remember. I don't like swimming in open waters. Now I can hold it in, but I used to have kind of an anxiety attack.
But you still did it?
I still did it.
It's like 1,000 meters? How much is it?
It was, that first race was 750 meters swimming.
That's a lot.
Then 20 kilometers bike, which I did instead of a road bike. I didn't have any money. My parents didn't know if I was going to fall in love with it or not.
Yeah.
They were like, do it with a road bike, like a mountain bike, and if you like it, we'll rent one, or we'll find a cheap one, or whatever. And then a 5-kilometer run. And I fell in love with it. In the swim, I was scared as fuck. Like, that's literally what I can explain. I don't remember the 14 minutes I spent in the water. I don't remember.
No memory.
I have barely any memories of it. I just remember some rocks, breathing a lot, and actually praying in my brain. You know, like Catholic people do the rosary, like the 10 beads. So I was praying constantly.
The entire 15 minutes.
Yeah, for the entire swim. And my dad was in the beach, and he just looked at me like, "You are like top 50. What the hell?" I used to be a swimmer when I was younger, like when I was like 6 to 12 years old. But I'm not a good swimmer. It's just I was so scared that pushed me. Then the bike was the most boring thing I ever done in my life, which I still.
You went from the scariest thing to the most boring thing of your life.
Yes.
Well, once you have the adrenaline high, it's hard.
Yeah, it's difficult. And then the run, that's when I truly fell in love with running, because in the bike I got passed by everyone. I was in a road bike, I was 17, I hadn't trained. But then in the run, I actually managed to get a lot of positions back, because that was my main sport. So that's when I fell in love with running, because I saw that it was my strong part. And literally, while I was carrying my bike to the car, talking to my dad, like, "Oh, it was amazing. just before the race, we asked a policeman, "Oh, where can we park the car?" "Oh, here." And he looked at me in a swimsuit, like complete body swimsuit that did not belong to me, obviously, because it was way too big, with a mountain bike. And he looked at me and he just said, like, "This is your first time." And I was like, "Yes, I'm so scared." It was like, "You're gonna fall in love with it. You're gonna get addicted." And since then, I've been doing at least up to 3 to 4 triathlons a year.
Wow.
With
Since
3 to
then.
4 a year.
Yeah,
And the longest you've done was a half Ironman.
I did a half Ironman. Just in 2 months, it's gonna be 2 years shy. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's, I mean, obviously that's longer than a marathon in terms of like time spent,
Yes.
but it's a very different challenge. I've never done one, but just from having spoken to people, like the marathon, it is much harder on your legs, obviously, because you're literally pounding pavement for like 3-4 hours, depending on how fit you are. If you're world champion, it's like 2 hours, but if you're walking, it's like 6. But on a half Ironman, like you're gonna be on your bike for like 90 kilometers, which it's more about like the mental endurance side and being able to eat on the way and like keep your energy levels up, but at least your legs are not getting like pounded. So it's
completely what I told you that happened in my first triathlon. The swim part, I was good. The bike part was boring as hell, and everyone passed me. And then on the run, I passed some people.
You did the same.
The same in the half Ironman. Like, it was, for me, the bike was like 3 hours and 10 minutes, something like that, which for me was surprising. Because it was like a kind of a hilly race.
Surprisingly good.
Surprisingly good. Yeah, I was expecting 3 hours and a half.
Okay.
And I thought that I was going to be better in the half marathon. I wanted to do like an hour and 40, and I did an hour and 52, something like that. But literally, there was this amazing point. One of the things I want to do is shout out to my family and friends that have ever come to see me at a race, because normally they start really early. For example, the marathon of Barcelona is going to be at 8:30 in the morning, and I don't expect people to be waking up at 6 a.m. with me, having breakfast, all the shenanigans, and then waiting 3 hours and a half, 4 hours for me. So I just tell them to come to the finish line. And my half Ironman was an hour and a half away from Barcelona. So I told my friends, but I knew the probability that I was going to be by myself was really high. And actually, several of my friends not only did the trip, but 2 of them one of them was in Pamplona, which is a 4-hour drive. He did it in his motorbike, picked a friend in Barcelona, and brought him to the race. And they actually managed to get there, like when I was in the lowest point of the half marathon, in the 10th kilometer, which I was already kind of like, I was not really seeing anything. I was a bit gone. And it was at the same moment that I saw my sister, 2 of my closest friends, a girl that is one of my closest friends to this day, and is dating one of my closest friends, for which I'm really, really happy. I presented them, and
you're the Cupid.
Yeah, I have 2 weddings in April that I have presented the couples, which is horrible because I cannot get a girlfriend, but for my friends I get.
So you have a gift then.
I have a gift that I cannot get to myself.
So you saw them while you were running.
Yeah, and in that moment I felt that I could run another 6 hours. Wow. It was amazing. Like, if you ever have a friend that is going to do a race and you know it's going to be a challenge, truly go see them, even if it's at the finish line, because the sense of joy we get from seeing that and being supported it's well, how did you feel when your girlfriend came to the stand-up comedy from London, was it?
Yeah.
Like for 2 days.
Well, she came for a week, of course, just like knowing that people around you like want you to succeed and are there to support you, like obviously it's a very different environment, but with the stand-up and the marathon, like both cases was like, well, even if this goes badly, I'll still be proud of myself for just putting myself out there and doing something challenging. The stand-up went better than the marathon. Because with the stand-up, once I ran out of jokes about 5 minutes in, I was like, okay, that's my time. Tapped Rishabh in and went back to drinking my beer. With the marathon, once you're out of energy, you still have to keep going.
Because when you're running, there's not much you're doing, because when you're at the gym, you're constantly distracted. You're changing workout. You're thinking about, okay, what next? What workout do I do next? And then like people around you. So there's always these breaks. And then if I'm listening to a podcast, especially if it's very intense, I have to like rewind and like, oh, okay, I missed that. But when you're running, you're just so hyper focused. I don't know, for something, I'm super hyper focused on a conversation then.
For me,
like it's bizarre. Like I did it only because I wanted to feel productive, because I would never read as much as I wanted to read. So I was like, fuck, okay, I need to like, I need to know things. And then like podcast was away, and then running and podcast just like became this match made in heaven.
You have never done mountain running, no?
No, not really.
I had a really, really deep, and I still have, deep love to mountain running. And that's where I lost my hyper focus. Because I was like, if you go downhill, you need to be hyper focused on everything.
You don't want to like fall and slip.
Yes, and I have fallen several times, hurt myself a lot of times. And now even if I'm running the road, I'm gonna be like just looking around like the legs, his legs, who's spitting on my left, who's spitting on my right, where is the water, where is the next gel, whatever. Like I'm processing information all the time. So for me, that kind of like really fast-paced music, it can be rap, it can be heavy metal. I have different genres in my playlist, but the fast-paced music is the one that is gonna keep me awake all the time. Like this.
In races, I've stopped listening to music altogether.
I'm doing that now
because I feel like there's where you need the focus, and like yes, there are parts of the race where I kind of wish I had like a beat, something to motivate me, but I think there's more parts of the race where I'm grateful for just focusing on the race itself. But for the training, I think like without music,
impossible.
It's impossible. Yeah.
For me, it will be impossible.
So would you say that running is your the proudest thing that you've done in your life so far? Or like what you've achieved with running, everything that you've done so far?
So, running by itself is not the proudest thing I have ever achieved. But it gave me something that I'm really proud of, which is kind of like a mentality I have. So when I started running, and I did my first triathlon, it was my last year of school, 17 going to 18, kind of like really getting focused into it, like training 4 to 5 days a week, etc., etc. I started having a few problems in my legs and in my feet. It took some time, but finally a doctor found out that I had, not only I had flat feet, but also one of the legs is a bit longer than the other, enough to create a scoliosis. Plus I have short tendons, I think it's in English.
Yeah.
And also had here, I don't know how to say it in English, but in the tibia, I had calcium periostitis tibial. I don't know how to say it in English, but in the end, what happened is...
So basically all fucked up.
All fucked up. Yeah. And I couldn't even walk for a time, because what happened in the tibia was that the protection of the tibia was fragmenting. So the tibia itself was fragmenting, and there was these little needles of bone that were picking on my muscles, which is really hurtful. Thankfully, it has never come back, and now I wear a special type of platforms in my shoes, both for walking and for running, especially for running. But during one of the tests, I was doing a running test in front of a doctor, and he told me, okay, you can run, but you will never be amazingly good at it. And that kind of switched like something in my brain.
It's the word.
It's the word of you're not gonna be able to do it, you know. I hate when people say something like that to anyone, and for me it's a motivation of, if you think I am not able to do it, I'm not gonna do it for you. I'm gonna do it for myself, because I'm giving that image. So it's kind of a motivation, and it made me fall in love with not only the sport but the process of it, and it gave me many lessons along the way. But if I have to say what is the proudest thing I have ever done regarding running, it's that mentality change
that you
of
got
myself.
you out of it.
Yes.
But why did you decide to sign up for the marathon? What was the trigger?
So, because of my legs, I have never done really long distances. But I was getting not bored, but between jobs, studying for the GMAT, getting into ESE, keeping a life balance with my friends, socialize, etc. The last year I was kind of leaving the sport aside. Last year was the first time in my last 10 years that I didn't do a triathlon. I did a duathlon, which is running, biking, running, and I did another race, which was running, swimming, running, but not a full triathlon. And I kind of got angry at myself, and in the end of the season, I actually managed to do a triathlon with my sister, but I was not in the best shape ever, like for my standards, and because I am a masochist with myself regarding my times. Like I always try to get a little bit better every single race, and it's difficult.
Have they been improving like year on year?
Yes. But I have kind of like hit a stalemate point of like I'm doing good times, but if I want to become better, I have to start sacrificing things that I really love, which is like certain type of food, stop drinking with my friends, beer, this kind of stuff. And I think that you need a balance. So I am happy to keep improving in a way slower manner. That's more than enough for me, but that's kind of what pushed me to, okay, so if I'm not going to be able to keep my balance with everything in my life, what is the next challenge? So 2 years ago, I was going to do a 40K run in the mountains of Menorca with a friend, but due to COVID, I couldn't go there. Her family was there, she had like a 120K race, so she couldn't risk getting COVID. She's an amazing girl. Like her story, if I can, I will bring her to the podcast because she went through cancer during college, and now she did a half Ironman after it, and then turned into an amazing trail runner racer. She just did this August the Ultra Mont Blanc, 155 kilometers with 10,000 positive meters. It's wild. She did like 50 hours running.
50 hours of running
with like maximum 4 hours of sleep. Like for me, she's not only a role model, but she's a really close friend. Her name is Marta Bonace, and like shout out. Tomorrow I'm training with her. We try to push each other. She's amazing, but now I kind of lost.
So you signed up for the marathon. You were gonna do the 40K race, but you didn't do it because of COVID, and then.
So what happened was I was training for it while doing COVID, and I kind of like woke up on a Friday just before the day of my race, and I was like, you know what, I have a mountain here in Barcelona. So I just grabbed a bag on the Saturday morning, told my dad, can you meet me in 2 hours in this place and bring me like a Coca-Cola, and did the 40K by myself.
Wow.
Like no guidance. I had like a kind of a route in my head, like I kind of knew the kilometers and everything, but like no guidance at all. I did it like in almost 4 hours and 50 minutes with to 700 to 900 meters of positive ascent, but that hurt a lot. Like I'm not kidding. I was. There was a point I almost cried. Like I had tears going out because my feet, the sole of my feet was so swollen that I was like, this is pain. So I kind of told myself that I would never do a marathon because I will not enjoy it. But after the MBA, getting into the MBA, doing the GMAT and everything, that was kind of like, if I'm able to do this, which is more of an intellectual thing, but if I'm able to do this while doing my job, like not taking any time or anything, why not try it? You know, kind of like challenge myself. And one of the core beliefs that I have is that at least there are some things you don't have to try in your life. Like whatever, for example, really hard drugs, like heroin stuff or whatever, don't do them. That's kind of logical. But even if I fail next Sunday and I don't get the time I want, which is under 3 hours and 30 minutes, whatever. Like one of the things I always tell my friends and anyone that has not started the sport, and for me it's a core motivation, is that even if you don't finish the race, you have actually done more than the people that didn't even get to the race. So I have extrapolated that to a lot of things in my life, but in general I will be proud of myself because of the work I've done, and if I don't get it, it's alright. If I get it, even better. I'm gonna have a beer either way. So that's it. Kind of like trying to have a positive mentality.
So with this, so you know all the athletes like who are so highly disciplined, like you can clearly show that mentality, discipline. There's because they're so motivated by like doing their best. When they don't do their best, it's like they get frustrated. It affects them. Does it affect you? Because it feels like you're like, even if I don't complete, I'll just have a beer. But
Sometimes yes. Like if I'm doing a 5 kilometer race with the objective of going under 19 minutes, which is my next objective when I do the marathon. Or for example, the biggest objective of this year is going under 1 hour and 27 minutes on the half marathon, which is my personal best. I'm doing that in May. That's a more hyper focus on one thing. Because the marathon for me it's a first time. But on something I've done like a half marathon, I've done it like 6 to 7 times.
So you have a target, like this is my time.
Yes. So if I don't get it, it's either gonna be because I was not disciplined enough, which gets me angry, or by bad luck, which won't get me as angry, but it will be more kind of like being frustrated, you know. But it's not the same. There is no regret on the second. On the first one, there is regret because I know that I could have gotten here, and I got here because of my lack of discipline. You know, and one of the things I wanted to talk about in the podcast and why how can I say it? Recommend doing sports, high intensity sports like this, and kind of like if you have never run like a 10K, take it slow, like focus, take a year to do try to get a good time. Don't try. In 2 months I'm gonna do 40 minutes in a 10K. Don't do that. That's impossible if you have never run. But one of the things I have learned from this is something that I have put outside of sports and put in my social life and my work life, especially. It's the consistency and also the resilience. What the sports gives you is that discipline that if you want to get an objective, you're not gonna need to work on it a lot. And that needs also consistency. Maybe you are not in the mood for a 10K run. You know, I have done runs while having a fever or not feeling great or just being really tired. But by being consistent, doing that run, even if it's like a minimal improvement, it's more than just staying home. So that small thing is, in the end, it keeps increasing. It's like bodybuilders. You don't get jacked like some of our colleagues in class in 2 weeks. You don't get like Jaime or Sean in 2 weeks. You need to do it constantly, and you need to focus on it. But it's not a one-time thing. It's
a patient game.
It's a patience game, you know? Like so many things in the world. And that patience that I have learned thanks to consistency has been useful in my life as a worker, as a consultant, because I knew I was not going to become partner in 2 years. But by being good every day,
you manage to.
You increase.
And I think running especially is super rewarding in that sense, because running doesn't have the same barriers to entry that some other sports do. Like all the equipment you need is a pair of running shoes. You can do it anywhere you are in the world.
Yes.
I mean, some people like running in the heat, some people don't. Some people like running in the cold, some people don't. But generally,
I like both.
that's a good start for doing a marathon. But like with running, it's obviously natural talent is going to play a huge role.
Yeah.
But just showing up and, like you said, like putting the consistency and putting the mileage in is gonna in the end beat someone who it might be very talented but stays at home. Whereas like I don't know, something like football, sometimes you play with guys who, you know, are actually in bad shape, they're overweight, they're unfit, they haven't trained in years, but they just have the talent and they'll just run like rings around you just because they have that, you know, thing from childhood where they were super coordinated, they played a lot of football, and it just sits there. Whereas with running, like a marathon, especially, like 100 meters again, like some people are just God-given sprinters, but with a marathon, like it's gonna be about the person who took really, like I'm also drinking beers and eating fast food, like I'm not, like I said, balance is really important, but I think with running what's really rewarding is that you see over time how you can improve and how you can really get something out of it for yourself. In the end, we're just competing against ourselves, but just knowing that like, oh, I train like 5 hours this week, and I'll train 5 hours next week, and I'll train 5 hours for the next 10 weeks, and then we'll see what happens, and then it makes these like microscopic changes to your body. Exactly. I think that's pretty cool, because you can't say that about a lot of other sports or activities where
that feedback,
a lot of money
I agree. The barriers to entry is actually very
kind of like the comparison you did was like amazingly good regarding running and what was the name of football. But for me, running kind of like this is a bit of my romantic side. But for me, running is like a relationship. It's not about doing something amazing every once in a while, like, oh, I'm gonna run today 40 kilometers. It's more of a, today I'm gonna run 5K, and tomorrow again, and tomorrow again, and again, and again, and again. And you will see that what's a good relationship, the ones that fight every day towards getting a real good relationship, or the ones that just do a huge gesture
Once in
once
a
a
while.
month.
Mm.
The one that is going to be more fit is the one that works every single day, you know?
That's a good analogy.
That's a good one. I'm gonna use that as a snippet for one of the videos. Like that's running is like a relationship, and then like that's a
You're
quote.
gonna use it for your online dating profile.
Yeah,
That's,
I was
I'm stealing it. I'm stealing it. Unless like half of the girls in Barcelona have already met Gallo and they're like, wait, that's not you. That is not you. That is.
I wish that.
There's a guy I know from ESA who says the same thing. It was a much better runner than you are.
Well, I am not like Piyush, man.
Piyush. Shout out to Piyush. Shout out to
Nah,
Piyush.
he's a...
Oh,
Ooh,
interesting.
this looks running related, guys.
Running a
Yeah, well, I was gonna do, like, this is a running-related podcast. But
This is a running-related
Apart
podcast.
from a
Sponsored by
really...
Brooks.
Yeah, apart from, like, the really ugliest bag that I have in my wardrobe, which I don't know why I love, inside here is actually the first pair of official shoes that I got, and actually by my first sponsor, which is my granddad.
Oh.
My granddad was the first guy. We were talking once, and I told him that I wanted to get into running. My granddad from the Catalan side, from the Ferrer side. But shout out to my whole family, obviously. They are all been supportive. My parents have been really supportive. But he wanted to give me something. And I told him, oh, I'm going to do this really funny race. My actual first race, but in reality I went there like completely dressed in running style, and I was next to the Halo guy for the video games, and next to a guy dressed as a mate, and next to a guy dressed as a Spartan. It was a custom race, obstacle race, and I took it like really seriously, and I got fifth because everyone was drunk, and it was 24th of December. It was really weird, but my granddad was actually the one that drove me to the race. And after the race, I had like really basic like running shoes from the Decathlon, but shout out the Decathlon, amazing quality stuff they have. Especially with shorts and t-shirts, like love them. I only wear that. But my granddad told my parents about it, and thanks to him, they got me these
The
shoes.
first sponsored shoe.
This is my first sponsorship by my parents and my granddad, and these shoes have actually done like I think over 1,000 kilometers. They are not the best shoes in the world, but I don't know, they hold something for me, and
Seem to be holding up, okay?
well, they are like 6 years old. Yeah, well, I have kept them in really good state, and like I have treated them.
You knew this segment was coming, so you.
You were
Yes,
like, I gotta
yes,
preserve
a
it.
little bit.
So are you gonna keep this with you? You know, I have the same shoes.
Really?
Different color.
Different color.
Same ASICs, yeah. Different color. I have red.
What I kind of gonna do with this, and the only reason why I keep them in my wardrobe is not only the emotional attachment, but actually these shoes. With these shoes, I actually won my first under 20 minutes 5K, my first under 40 minutes 10K, my first 3 half marathons.
Oh wow.
No, 2 half marathons. I'm kind of like in my room. I could not bring it, but I have this huge cardboard filled with all the race numbers that I have, and I have like all the medals also there. I think there is up to 40 to 50.
That's
race
the advantage
numbers.
of doing the podcast at people's places, because then we could have used that for the
Yes,
show
yes.
itself.
I'll send a picture if you want.
Yeah.
Wow, you send us a picture and we can put it in the video.
Yeah,
When you talk about
I'll
send a
send
picture,
a
I'll put it in the
picture, yeah.
video. So these are you going to run at them? On Sunday?
No. These have been these are more than used. Like, it doesn't look like it, but there's no track. But what I want to do with these ones, I want to like get a glass container and kind of like do a museum style box with an explanation of what I did with these shoes.
Talking about proudest moment, there's one thing that we discussed before you came here, and something that people don't know about Gallo, and maybe you want to.
I've been thinking so.
Oh, okay.
Lend me a hand.
Not many people know that you have written a book.
Oh shit, yeah, I know.
So he's written a book, and
Yeah, that's one of my proudest moments.
What's the book about? Can we read it?
Yes, but it's in Spanish. I'm gonna tell you that.
I mean, I'm doing BSP.
I know.
It's good to have a target.
I can send it to you online.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what's the book about?
It's kind of like a weird thing to explain.
No, it's fine. I mean, listen, you wrote a book.
Okay,
like-
it's a historical novel slash. Let's say it's 100% historical with a 20% romantic.
Interesting.
And it follows the steps of a young French soldier in the Napoleonic Wars against Russia. It's 80 to 85 pages long. It's not the best book ever, but I'm really
Okay.
proud about it.
That
Wow.
sounds like a lot of fun. How old were you when you wrote it?
I was 17.
Right when you were starting out with the writing?
Just when I was finishing.
Man, 17 was like quite a year for you, man.
Yes.
You were writing books, starting to run,
I was
like,
learning French. I just broke up with my first girlfriend. It was
and you wrote a book. Was
Yes.
it how much it was inspired by your relationship?
a lot.
I mean, I could imagine. I'd imagine.
Yeah, that relationship was a long distance one with my first girlfriend from LA, and
So it's
I
inspiring.
actually started writing because we were writing each other letters.
Wow.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
very romantic. And also in our previous podcast episode, we talked to Laura.
I
Who
heard
wrote a
that.
love letter.
I heard that.
Man.
Kind of like it appeared.
There's if you want to be on a podcast,
You gotta
the
write
only
them.
qualification is that you have to have written a love letter.
Yeah, if
Uh,
you've
Yes.
not written love letters, then you cannot be on the podcast.
And love texts on the 3 a.m. in the morning do not count.
Do
it
not
has
count.
To be a,
Yeah.
like a paper letter.
You up question mark is not. It's not a love letter.
I'm just imagining a guy
So
sitting
many-
up with a fountain pen and writing
You up.
So many people in the essay are not gonna be able to come to the podcast.
Yeah, no.
But
Interesting.
yeah,
You wrote a book. You wrote a book about romance, and was it?
But not
Was
romance, it's
but
like-
20% romance. But did it have a happy ending or a sad ending?
It had a happy ending, but it had a really, really dark episode inside regarding the reality of war and how people treat each other in war. I don't know if anyone want to read it. I can send it to
I want to
them.
read
I'll read it.
But I don't want to spoil anything. But it's more of a someone in a higher position, kind of a soldier taking profit from other people and what can happen in war.
Wow.
Did you read a lot about the Napoleon Wars?
Yes, I was a huge history nerd. I actually took me a month and a half to actually investigate not only the color of the uniforms for both bands, for both sides, but also the weapons they were using, the models they were using, the model of the cannons, the battles I wanted to talk about. I would look for real battles, real battlefields. I talked about the Cossacks. I investigated about them. And well, the reason why I wrote the book is in Spain, when you finish school, you need to do like a master thesis, but a school thesis.
Wow.
And you could do it about anything.
Even for high school. That's,
Yeah. Yeah, and you could do it about anything. And I was supposed to write about how the civil Spanish War affected the young population that wanted to go to college, for example, and how they returned to college after it, and kind of like investigate about that. And I knew it was going to be so boring. So I kind of like, I
And
thought
you submitted that as your thesis? The
No.
book?
I submitted, my thesis was the process of writing a historical book. And my
so
practice
Okay.
was the book.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and another side thing that really few people, I think I can count them with both my hands.
Now 20 people would know about it. All our
20
fans
people.
will know because of our fans.
But I don't think they're gonna be able to find it.
Okay, so
It's
yeah,
on
what
the
is
internet.
it? What is it? So what is the?
I used to have a blog
Oh,
of when I started running.
Yeah.
A blog
is it still
spot.
there?
It's still there. I
Can we give like a link to it? What?
No.
No.
No. It-
Last question is the same for everyone.
okay.
And it's interesting because we get interesting perspectives. So the question for you is, what is the meaning of life? Simple question.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Very
It's a
simple.
simple question. The worst thing is that I had a few answers kind of prepared,
No, it's okay.
No. But I kind of like want to give the improvised one because it's the one that I feel
In the moment right now.
in the moment right now. And one thing that I feel about now is, and actually it's the first thing I thought, like the first answer I thought about is kind of the feeling I have of the meaning of my life is to not only be happy and self-sufficient and work and kind of like be a person of trust and ethics and, you know, like not a role model, but someone that you think about him and you're like a nice guy who cares about his surroundings. But the deeper meaning for me in life is something that I really want, which is in the end I want to create a family. And one of the things I want to do with my life is either to give them as many advantages and things I had or more. Help them become better than me, kind of like the meaning of my life. That comes from another side of my history, which is, long story short, my granddad, my Gallo granddad.
Who got you this?
No, this is a Catalan, the Ferrer.
Oh, okay.
Yes. My Gallo granddad had 13 kids. Out of the 13 kids, only 5 were boys. So only 5 were going to continue the Gallo surname. And out of those 5, 2 are not married because they are a priest and a numerary. You both know one of them, Inigo. And the other 3, only one had a boy.
So you're the only, even though your granddad had 13 kids, you're the only male grandson that is...
Out of 45 grandsons he has. Until recently, 12 years ago, I was the only kid who will continue the surname, which gave me a lot of pride on my surname, but also a lot of like understanding from a young age that my position here in this earth is not only to do my things, but if I'm gonna have like a family,
There's a heritage to it.
there's a huge heritage
Who's
to
the
it.
one that you got 12 years ago?
Another one of my cousins, he appeared. Like they were looking for a boy and finally came when I was like 15 years old.
Got it.
I was like so overjoyed because I
Takes
felt
a bit of the pressure off for sure.
took a lot of pressure off.
Wow.
And we are actually both really similar. We are both kind of an idiot sometimes. But he's an amazing young kid. Like I think he's 13 to 14 now. His name is Inigo. He's the son of my uncle Pablo and Ana. And amazing young kid. Like with a really bright future.
Wow. So for
Shout
you,
out to Inigo.
Yeah.
shout out to Inigo.
Inigo is a really common name.
Shout out to Inigo Gallo, but
The teacher.
not that one. Oh, both.
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 Yeah.
But yeah, for me, the heritage of having a family can be kind of the meaning of life. Kind of.
And you carry also the weight of like years and years of there's so much heritage, culture, and values attached to your name.
Yeah.
And wow. Man, all these answers like always like are so fascinating.
Well, I can imagine. Yes, for me, is something that is fascinating every single day. Like every single day, I have a conversation. I told you before, I had a 2-hour conversation with a friend of mine from second year regarding the meaning of life, relationships, self-perception, introspection, everything. We talked about everything with no taboos, no nothing, and it was amazing. And today I had a talk with a priest of ESE, which was also amazing.
And now you're here to talk with us
Yes.
about
With the secular priest.
the second.
Well, there is still time, Pavel, if you want.
Come in, my child.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean that.
Don't get me started.
That concludes the episode, man. We went through a Spanish food journey, then we ran through mountains and roads for kilometers and hours. You brought it such
An
special
thing.
emotional thing to the table, literally to the table,
Literally to the over table.
to the over table, and then of course you ended it with this like beautiful answer about like meaning of life for you, which is a lot so personal to you.
So no pressure to our next.
No pressure to the next guest. Just make sure you write love letters.
No pressure to the next guest. Like I came here, Pete, unprepared, just trusting completely these guys. I actually told Ariane before you got here that he was asking me, do you want to go really deep or not? I was like, just hit me with it. It's simple.